Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to reorganise my bookshelves, so I thought I would take you along with me. So I am on leave this week, and the only thing I have planned today is to go to my gym classes tonight. So until then I'm dedicating the day to reorganising these bookshelves. Now, I didn't get up till midday. And it's now about 1:15, so I have until about 3:30, so that's a decent 3 hours, which I think is plenty of time. Now, what I want to do falls into 3 stages. Let me tell you what I want to achieve this afternoon. So stage 1, I want to pull off these shelves the unread books which, when I look at them, I'm like, am I interested in reading you? So I think a lot of those will be books which I have acquired in like book subscription boxes over the years, or in my book advent calendar. Some of them will be books that have been passed on to me by like people in book club or things where, you know, people are just getting rid of stuff and I'm like, yeah, I'll have it. So that's stage 1, to take from the shelves all those books where I'm like, do I really want to read you? Stage 2 is to then make a decision on all those books as to whether I want to keep them or not. So I probably use a variety of methods to come to my decisions. I might try a chapter. I might have a look and see how available some of the books are from the libraries, and I'm a member of 4 libraries, so like if it's a book that I'm not super keen on but one day I might want to read, if I can easily get it from the library, then I may as well unhaul it. I might have a look at some reviews online on Storygraph, etc., to sort of inform my decision as to whether it is a book I want to read. So that's stage 2, deciding whether I want to keep them or not. And then stage 3, which is the final stage, is to reorganise the shelves. So to put back the ones that I decide I do want to keep and I do want to read. Depending on how many of them there are, I'm thinking I might put them straight onto this TBR trolley, which is at the moment a bit of a mess. Some of this is like a book haul. I went book shopping yesterday. It needs sorting out. And there's some library books as well. So yeah, depends on how many of them there are. I might put them on this TBR trolley with a view to saying I need to read them by the end of the year or unhaul them. But as well as that, I want to do a little bit of organising of the TBR shelves at least, and I'd quite like to free up a little bit of space. So some of the read books that I am keeping, which are sort of like just on their sides here on top, I'd quite like to free up some space so they can sit properly on the shelves. That sounds fairly ambitious, but that is my aim. I am in a ruthless mood. I'm ready to unhaul some books. So I'm going to, take you along with me. So it's only 1:30. It's only like 10 minutes later, but stage 1 is complete. And I have taken, I think it's 28 books off the shelf to be held in limbo while their decision is contemplated. So I'm not going to like talk through all of the titles, just sort of hold them up so you can see what they are. When I come to deciding if they're staying or not, at that point I will tell you what the books are and explain my reasoning for you. So this was pretty easy because I know the books that I look at and I'm like, do I want to read you or not? So those are the 28 books. You might be able to see, I don't know if you can see because these shelves are double stacked. So the back shelf is stuff that I've read and I'm keeping. So this is kind of decimated. This shelf here, I don't know if you can see it, like there. That's like a sci-fi shelf, half of that's gone. And a fair few from this shelf here are gone as well. So out of the 28 books, place your bets now. How many do you think I'm going to unhaul? Hi, it's now just gone 3:30, and those 28 books have been scrutinised and I've come to my decision. So do let me know in the comments what your guess was as to how many books I would be keeping and how many I would be unhauling out of the 28 in total. I'm very pleased with myself because I am keeping a grand total of 5 books, which means I'm unhauling 23 books. I do realise this means I do actually need to unhaul them because I have a pile of books over there on the floor, which is like just behind where I sit when I'm filming in front of my bookshelves. I reckon there's at least 15, maybe 20 books there that have meant to have been unhauled and just haven't left the house. So now I'm adding 23 to that pile. I actually do need to take some to the charity shop tomorrow. But let me tell you what I'm keeping and what I'm getting rid of and why. So these are the 5 that I am keeping. So we have The Ginger Cat Mystery by Robin Forsyth. This is published in the US as Murder at Marston Manor. It's a murder mystery first published in 1935. So I read the first chapter of this one and I had kind of mixed feelings because the sentences were quite long and it was a bit wordy for your classic murder mystery. However, a lot happened in that first chapter. So we had a marriage, a death, an exhumation, possible poisoning. We had another death, presumably murder, and a missing murder weapon. That's quite a lot of action in the first chapter, which I do appreciate. Then I messaged my dad because he passed this on to me a few years ago to ask what his star rating was, and he gave this 3 stars, which is a high rating from my dad. He is a very harsh rater. So that sealed my decision that I do want to read this one. Next, there are a few sci-fi. I had like a little half sci-fi shelf. One of those books is remaining, and it is Inverted World by Christopher Priest. So when was this first published? Let's see. This was first published in 1974, and this sounds quite interesting. So it's set in a city that has to continually move, like physically move ahead in order to survive. It's told in first person, which is something that I always tend to prefer. And this one, so some of the other sci-fis that we'll get to are like set in space and very sort of sciencey and techy, which is just less appealing to me. Whereas this is sort of first person. It looks like it's sort of closer to The Everyman, which is the sci-fi that I tend to prefer. Like I like sort of like probably my favourite sci-fi author would be John Wyndham, and so this is sort of more in that vein, so I am intrigued by that one. Sorry, I keep wiping my lip. It's quite hot. I've had to close the window because there are 2 lawnmowers going, although I literally can't hear them now I've closed the window, so have they just finished? But side note, someone in work the other day, this is relevant, you'll see why, a few weeks ago, I can't even remember what we were talking about, blah, 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 and then she mentioned Sula. And so obviously I'm immediately thinking, Sula is a great book by Toni Morrison, but it's weird that you're just randomly mentioning that in the midst of whatever we were talking about. And I was like, what did you say? Sula apparently is sweaty upper lip alert. So anyway, apologies for the Sula. Anyway, where was I? The next book I've decided to keep is By the Sea by Abdul Razak Gurnah, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature a few years ago. And this sounds quite interesting. So following our main character who arrives at Gatwick Airport from Zanzibar, and he has a small bag with him which has his most precious possession, which is a mahogany box containing incense. He used to own a furniture shop, have a house and be a husband and father, but now he is an asylum seeker. And then we also have another character who is somehow intimately connected with our first character's past, who lives quietly alone in his London flat, and then we follow as these 2 characters meet. It sounds, from having sort of a little, I didn't read the full chapter, but I had a little flick through and it just sounds interesting, so I am interested in that one. Next is We Are All Birds of Uganda by Hafsa Zayan. This is quite a popular book. It's quite highly rated. It's set across 2 timelines, 1960s Uganda, following Hassan, who is struggling to run his family business, and then present day London, we have Samir, who is a high-flying lawyer. So I'm imagining in some way those 2 stories will interlink. I don't really like multi-generational family sagas, which it feels like this might tip into. I'm not sure if it does, but the writing style quite appeals to me. And it has like quite nice size font. Like some of these books I'm unhauling because the font is too small. This one is quite a nice size. And then the final book I'm keeping is Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse, which is a bit of a classic. This copy is a little bit battered, and I did look, but my library doesn't have a copy, and I am interested in this. So we're following a character called Harry Haller, who is known as Steppenwolf, who is alienated from society. And it says, his despair and desire for death draw him into an enchanted Faust-like underworld. Through a series of shadowy encounters, romantic, freakish and savage by turn, he begins to rediscover the lost dreams of his youth. So it sounds a bit, it's described here as the hip Bible of the 1960s counterculture. It sounds interesting, it sounds a little bit weird, so I am interested in that. So those are the 5 books I am keeping that are going to go back onto the bookshelf. So the lawnmowers have finished, so the window is thankfully open again. Right, I'll run through the books that I'm getting rid of. I won't talk about them sort of at any great depth other than to give you the reason why I am unhauling them. Okay, A Brief Stay with the Living by Marie Darrieussecq. This is a French novel which I DNF'd. I sort of soft DNF'd this a couple of years ago. But it's stream of consciousness and it's a little bit Virginia Woolf, and that's not something I enjoy, so I am just going to get rid of it. Barcelona Shadows by Mark Pastor. This is translated from Catalan. It's a murder mystery, quite dark, I think, looking at like the underworld of Barcelona, and it's probably going to be too dark for me, plus the font is rather small. This one, I really just dislike this cover. This is Between Beirut and the Moon by A. Naji Bakhti. It's meant to be kind of a bit of a funny coming of age story about a boy who wants to become an astronaut, but I just really dislike this cover quite a lot. Waterland by Graham Swift. This is a bit of a modern classic, which I am kind of interested in. This cover is this copy is a little bit past its best, and I can get it from the library if I ever really do want to read it. The Crying Tree by Nassim Raka. This is about a woman whose child is murdered, and then I think it's called into question whether the person who was convicted actually did it. I'm not sure if it's something I want to read, and it has particularly small font. The Mermaid Chair by Sue Monk Kidd. This is about a married woman who falls in love with a monk, and I just don't think I want to read that. Shantytown by Cesar Ara. This, I think, is by an Argentinian author. I kind of ummed and ahed about this one. It is very, very short. And from looking at reviews, I think it's a little bit odd. Magical realism got a mention, which I don't get on great with. And yeah, I suspect it's not quite going to be for me. Diary of a Somebody by Brian Bilston. So Brian Bilston is known as a poet, and he does like quite funny poetry. And this looks quite good. It's a novel, but I can get it in paperback from the library, and I really try to avoid reading hardback where I can. So if I want to read it, I will get it from the library in paperback. Ghana Must Go by Taye Selassie. This is a multi-generational family saga which following a Nigerian Ghanaian family living in the US. I really dislike multi-generational family sagas. A Woman Is No Man by Itaf Rum, who I would like to read from at some point, but again, this just sounds like it's a family saga. So it's set across 2 timelines, Palestine in 1990 and Brooklyn in 2008. And the font is a little small, so I'm going to get rid of that. The Hummingbird by Sandro Veronese. This is an Italian novel. This, I think this one, again, is multi-generational, it's moving, it's about a family. It's just probably not the kind of book I enjoy. Non-fiction, Spell It Out by David Crystal. I got this in a charity shop because I am interested in language and I have read books by David Crystal before. But am I ever really going to read a whole book all about spelling? Unlikely. The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey. I have DNF'd this book in the past. I just didn't get on with it. And then I ended up winning a copy along with a few other books when it was shortlisted for the Costa Award a few years ago. But I'm never going to go back to it. I'm not really interested in revisiting it. Right, another final stack to go. Yellow Crocus by Layla Ibrahim. This is about a child who's taken from her mother and given to the wet nurse to bring up. I had a look at some reviews of this one and I just think it's probably not my cup of tea. Bettany by Fred Dagua. This is about a young girl and I think her traumatic life, and I think it just sounds very desperate and probably not something I'd be drawn to reading. The Keeper of Stories by Sally Page. This I know I can get from the library. I think it's meant to be quite a light-hearted story about someone who works as a cleaner, but she somehow keeps other people's stories, so I don't know if there's like a fantastical element to that or what, but I can get it from the library if I really want to read it. A Fatal Inversion by Barbara Vine, aka Ruth Rendell. I have had a bit of a mixed bag in terms of reading Ruth Rendell and Barbara Vine books before. This one I can get from the library if I want to. The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. This was passed on to me by an old work colleague. I watched the TV series, which I did enjoy. I'm not super keen on reading it and I can get it from the library. Next, I've got a few sci-fi. This is The Stars, My Destination by Alfred Bester. This is about a man who survived by himself for 170 days in space, but he is carrying a murderous grudge on Earth. And it sounds kind of interesting, but I think it's probably not quite my cup of tea. A Memory Called Empire by Arcada Martin. This is the first book in I know there's definitely 2 books, so I don't know if it's a duology or if it's going to become a series, but anyway. And I have heard good things about this, but I can get it from the library. I had to flick through like the first chapter. I'm not sure if it's going to be for me. It's set in space. And our main character is posted to this space station. She finds out her predecessor was murdered. And so I think it's like murder mystery in space, and I think it's queer. And that all sounds interesting, but just from flicking through it, it's just a bit too sci-fi for me, I fear. But I can get it from the library if I want to. Books are collapsing. Right. Next is Across the Void by S.K. Vaughan. So this, we have a woman who is the last person alive on a failed mission to Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. And the only person who can help her is her ex-husband, who works as a NASA scientist. And again, just flicking through, I just don't think it's my cup of tea. I'm not super keen on books set in space, really. I do think space is fascinating, but novels set in space, I'm not that keen on. We're nearly finished. This is Places in the Darkness by Chris Brookmeyer. This is, I think, another murder mystery set in space. The death toll climbs, people are dying, and stuff happens, but I think it's just a bit too spacey for me. And the final one of the unhaul is Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. This is a book that I know a lot of people really, really love, but it is a very challenging book about a woman with cancer. It's told in quite a kind of experimental way, I think. But also this is quite a big hardback as well. So it takes up a lot of shelf space, and I'm just not sure that I would ever be in the right mood to read it. So I think I got this one like free from work, so I'll probably just take it back to work for someone else to enjoy. So that is quite successful. There's just like a mound of books here now. I'm very pleased with myself. Right, so final stage, it's 10 to 4. So I need to sort out those bookshelves into some kind of order. Hello. Right. That's hard work. I'm really pleased actually with how these shelves look, because I have managed to free up. Will this move along? Not really. I have managed to free up a whole shelf here for read books. So actually let me take this off the stand and I'll show you what I've done. Right, hang on. So this shelf here was TBR. That's now books that I've read and I'm keeping. So let's do the genre type ones. So I have a shelf free up here. That's exciting. Here is like short stories and a little bit of non-fic, and just some books are a little bit too tall to fit anywhere else. Here are some classics. So some of these I have read, some are yet to be read. These are my British Library books. British Library crime classics, and pleasingly I have a whole shelf of unread ones, so that is rather nice. Trinket shelf. And then here is sort of some more murder mysteries here, bit of adventure, horror, thriller, and some other stuff that doesn't really fit anywhere else. And then over here on the shelf, sort of around this side, I've kind of got some classics from Toni Morrison, Thomas Hardy, etc, etc, and then some queer stuff sort of around here, and then sort of a couple of thrillers at the end. So I am really pleased with that. So yes, I am thrilled with that. I am sweating. I need to go to 2 gym classes now. I might have a 20-minute sit down first, because that was hard work. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I feel so much lighter now that my bookshelves are organised and have space on them. I hope you're doing well, and I'll speak to you again very soon.